And our dear viewers, we were airing a session on China's AI and the Chinese economy at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where 87% of the Chinese companies are planning to increase the AI investment in 2025, and more than half reporting faster than expected progress. China's AI momentum is accelerating. And indeed, that was the main topic of the session that we have been watching on air. And now we move on with our special coverage for the Davos Economic Forum, where President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Wednesday said that the World Economic Forum is a unique opportunity for discussing pressing world challenges and in building a brighter future for the entire world. Addressing a special session dedicated for Egypt at the World Economic Forum's 56th annual meeting in Davos, President al-Sisi called for more concrete efforts and cooperation among world countries in order to benefit all our peoples.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delivered a special address at the World Economic Forum's 56th annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland on Wednesday. Addressing the attendees, the president reiterated that Egypt is a cornerstone of peace and security in the Middle East and keeps seeking peaceful settlements for regional crises. President al-Sisi asserted that settling the Palestinian question is very crucial for regional peace and stability. He said Egypt welcomes U.S. President Donald Trump's Peace Council for Gaza and the start of the second phase of the peace plan. President al-Sisi asserted that Egypt's foreign policy is constantly based on non-interference in other countries' affairs, emphasizing the importance of bolstering state-level institutions in the region in order for countries to confront challenges. The head of state hailed the World Economic Forum's role in reviewing world crises and challenges, saying Egypt enhances partnerships for development and progress. President al-Sisi pointed out that Egypt bolsters peaceful coexistence and integration among different world states. Over Egypt's domestic reform program, the head of state said the country continues its drive to enhance its infrastructure and boosts very attractive business environment. He affirmed that the country is boosting the private sector and is working on promoting education and technology and is enhancing human capital to cope with new realities in the world. President al-Sisi further added that Egypt is adjusting to new economic realities in the world and is ready to forthcoming challenges with continuous education and human capital development that are crucial for modern Egypt. He added that Cairo has succeeded to attract more investments and enhance the private sector. On Tuesday evening, President al-Sisi arrived in the Swiss city of Davos to take part in the forum.
And to shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Raouf Saad, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you so much for joining us. Sir, during the session dedicated to Egypt, President Sisi emphasized that Egypt has established a top-level infrastructure, including a network of seaports linked to a high-quality road network. What is the importance of promoting the infrastructure in attracting the investments, and how did you see this statement by President Sisi before the session at the World Economic Forum in Davos?
Well, I think the answer could go beyond that. A detailed sector, particularly the infrastructure. I think
yes, indeed.
The statement made by President Sisi is extremely significant in several ways. But let me highlight to start with that the choice of going to Davos is of a clean, refined political decision, particularly to meet President Trump, and instead of going to Washington. I think this is the significance here, that you meet, not as a special visit, rather than meeting within a kind of international event. That's very important. It has to be understood. Second is that the statement is designed in a way that to address multiple sectors. One is addressing the international economics community, and highlight the different aspects of the economic reforms, and stressing, and this is again very significant, stressing the role of the private sector. So this is it's a message which is qualifying, specifically the international as well as Egyptian investors, that that the private that there is a golden opportunity for the private sector to come to Egypt, with the kind of opportunities in terms of incentives and facilities. So the Davos Forum is one of the best forums in the world where you can address the highest level of the international community and business community. Second, and at the same time, this is a message which is declared in front of the whole world to the Egyptian investors, that you have to come forward in order to seize the opportunity. Second is that he made the point of the Palestinian cause, and I think he made it very clear that that he wanted to strengthen the momentum to move to the second phase of the Sharm el-Sheikh plan, and benefiting from the presence of President Trump, and give him an encouraging message in order to pursue these efforts with the hope that we land on the beginning of a lasting peace.
Yes.
Three, and this is again 3 or 4. A message to whom it may concern regarding the international community, regarding the violation of international law, regarding the reform of international institutions. And I would remind you that he was President Sisi was the first one to put in COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in 22 the claim to reform the international financial institutions, and that was included in the conclusions of the conference, which, at that time he addressed, and as he did this today, that, the debt of developing countries, and we have to review the policy in dealing with the developing countries. Yeah. So, the having a special session for Egypt would reflect something really very important, that Egypt is being seen by the world as a key player in the Middle East as well as in the international community. And I think the talking about the Palestinian issue, not the hidden, I mean the subtle message in his statement is that Egypt is the only country which is entitled to speak freely, individually, without a competition, on how Egypt was able to govern and manage the war in Gaza, and brought to an end, at least temporarily, the migration of the Palestinians to outside Gaza, as well as maintaining the strength and the case of the Palestinian cause. So I mean, this is something again stamped by Sisi's label, and I think it's great for Egypt that to be proud of having a president of that kind of a vision.
Mr. Ambassador, how do you see the keenness of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to participate in the World Economic Forum in Davos?
Well, as I was just saying, I think it's not only a choice. Of course, it's a choice. That the forum is a very famous one. It wasn't famous, by the way, before. I think that it started its fame since Gorbachev's. Because at that time, Gorbachev was opening to the West and, starting to establish new relationships. And that's why, at that time, he was invited for the first time to in the 50s, and the 90s, I mean. Second, it's it added to its fame when the forum was very much involved in the peace efforts after Madrid process in 1991 in order to redesign the Middle East in anticipation of peace. Three is having Donald Trump, with all the kinds of troubles around the world, including and particularly the dilemma of Greenland and the controversy that has. But having President Sisi within this kind of environment would enable him to be heard, seen, understood, on the largest level, international level.
Yes. Sir, to what extent Egypt's enhancement of the private sector and the human cages actually will be boosting its efforts in modernizing its economy?
Well, I just stressed, that he, in a very subtle manner, he has highlighted, the new role, I would say, of the private sector. And, after we have gone through, very difficult time in the economic reforms, but nevertheless, with the kind of well-governed policy in order to reform, we have gradually crossed the barriers and difficulties and challenges, that was in a very important way depriving the private sector from participating in the development process in Egypt. But now, with the recognition of international agencies of the stability of the economic Egyptian economy, and with the kind of statements, coming from the government that now the door is open for the private sector to get involved. I think that this would represent a kind of a new phase of a kind of either exclusive private businesses and investments or PPP, private partnerships between the private sector and the public sector. So we are heading to a new era. I would say that if we continue this way, we will be very close to have a kind of what I call a renaissance, and the Egyptian life altogether.
Yes. Sir, following his address before the World Economic Forum in Davos, the President engaged in an interactive session, and he tackled the geopolitical situation, and he emphasized Egypt's perspective regarding the multiple challenges that confront the Middle East. What's your take on that?
I believe that that the war, the Gaza war, has achieved, in spite of all the kind of criticism and regarding the role of Hamas, so on and so forth. But I think what happened, during the war and post the war, that many new facts have established themselves. One is that you brought the Palestinian cause in the core of the international agenda. Second is that the support for the new state solution is becoming a common request on regional and international levels. Three, that that it's being established that a migration has been tried and it was stopped. All right, and thanks to the solid position of the Egyptian president and Egypt. Four is, as I said before, how that you maintained the Palestinian cause and or revived the life of the Palestinian cause. So, but meanwhile, the Middle East altogether has become, the forefront of the international region. But nevertheless, it's being recognized as one of the richest regions, for opportunities. So the peace has been acclaimed not only by politicians but also by economists and the business community. So it's very important, let's try to get, the positive lessons, rather than being self-criticism or making, we know that Sharm el-Sheikh plan is full of shortfalls. But we have to we have to be results-driven. And the results, as I said before, it's clear that you stop migration and you maintain the Palestinian cause. And now we are getting very close to the beginning of the reconstruction of Gaza, which would bring, the international community with a leading role for Egypt in this regard, particularly with the kind of experience and achievements that Egypt has achieved, as you referred to in your statement, that and infrastructure. Now we have developed such an abundance of experience in building the infrastructure, so that's the more needed in Gaza. Plus, something very important, I think, the environment. I mean, because Gaza has been pulled into a macquarie of pollution and destruction and mines and all kinds of environmental and climate negative effects during due to the war. So I think we have to lay down before we start building the buildings and walls and whatever and hospitals. We have to clean up Gaza from all kind of pollution in order to ensure that will become a healthy strip and for the people, for the Palestinians who live there, and healthy economically, politically, socially for the Gazas, as well as for foreigners who will be coming forward to invest in this rich area.
Indeed. Ambassador Raouf Saad, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much, sir, for your precious input. And moving on, we're following his speech at the World Economic Forum's session that was dedicated to Egypt. President Sisi held an interactive talk with the head of the forum and the attendees. The talk tackled the geopolitical developments in the Middle East and worldwide. The president emphasized Egypt's perspective regarding addressing the multiple challenges that confront the Middle East. The president highlighted the necessity of seeking peace and avoiding escalation in contribution to restoring regional stability and availing the adequate environment to attain the long-sought prosperity. In this respect, the president called on the world leaders to abide by international law that was established at the wake of the Second World War in light of its pivotal role in achieving the international stability. Also, as part of his participation at the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Sisi met with Borj Brent, chief of the World Economic Forum. The president hailed the forum as a high-level international platform to exchange views among the world leaders, executives of leading corporations and the private sector representatives, with the aim of forging mutual cooperation in facing the challenges. The president added that the agenda of this year's forum addresses the important issues that reflect the increasing need for deepening international cooperation in order to achieve prosperity. Our dear viewers, that would bring us to the end of this special coverage for the Davos Economic Forum, and we'll be back for more coverage and more updates on the activities of Davos International Forum.